Well. Welcome back to the 706 podcast, 2017 edition. This time we're doing something different. Usually we take a look at a movie and we collectively, after much argumentation and cajoling and that kind of thing, we decide if it belongs to one of the 706 greatest movies of all time. Now we're doing something different. We're keeping it topical. We're going to talk about our favorite movies of 2016. This is a top 5, but first let me introduce my co-hosts.
Anthony.
Tony.
Kirk.
Kirk's still trying to figure out his movies. So, this is a simple top 5 exercise. We're going to go around the room with our faves for our number 5s.
Well, we'll do an honorable mention.
And if you like, you can start. Yeah, you can start absolutely with an honorable mention. You don't have to.
Tony's going to list all 239 movies he's done this year.
I saw 246 movies last year.
2016 was a very interesting year for me. I can't say this was a year of love for film for me personally. I don't know if it was just me, if it was the films I saw. There's a lot that I haven't seen. I have to kind of divest myself of this being an official sort of critical rating. This is more of a kind of personal feelings, personal enjoyment level. For me personally, I'm not going to speak for you guys. But I would like to give my annual Connor not taking myself too seriously award to Neighbors 2 for a movie that I did enjoy quite a lot.
I love Neighbors 2.
You love Neighbors 2.
I think it's great.
Tony and I saw it together.
It's my 9th place. Yeah, we did see it together on the screen.
Yeah. It's very funny.
What did you like about it?
What did I like about it? Well, it was just very funny. I was sort of, I guess it was the kind of the shock of that it was actually very, very good.
It loves its characters. It's very humanistic. It's
a
little bit political.
Some political, or just it has a social kind of message, right? It's the girls versus boys at first. We see sort of a willingness for the main character to kind of help the sorority start up and kind of cross-genderal solidarity, and it's just very funny. Lots of good
Zac
gags.
Efron's best role. Hands down, he's fantastic in the movie. And it's a movie that just feels really good to watch. It's just like a heartwarming, really, it's my favorite, not my favorite comedy, it's my favorite just outright comedy. I have other comedies that are sort of, are they comedy? But, yeah. So.
Yeah, quite good.
And on that comment, Tony just completely oversold the movie to me because Zac Efron already has his best role in a movie called Liberal Arts that came out a few years ago.
I've never heard of that. I thought you were going to say We Are Your Friends.
It's an amazing
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, Josh Radnor.
I would override all of you and say it's High School Musical by far.
The first one?
Role.
I prefer 2 myself.
Seminal.
I mean, I would say 3, but
3.
I was a fan of all, so.
I only saw 1 and 2.
Okay, well, honorable mention for me is the movie Sing Street, which was James Carney's 3rd film after Begin Again and Once. It follows a similar musical format. It's just sort of a simple movie about a young man trying to start a rock band in 1980s Dublin, basically just to win the girl. It's like a very earnest movie. It's just a very simple movie, and it just overall hits all the right notes, as some might say.
Yeah.
Very good. My honorable mention is I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. This is I hesitate to say Netflix original. It wasn't made for Netflix, but it was put on Netflix the same day it was released in theaters, which more movies are doing now. This is a horror movie by Osgood Perkins, I believe, and it's just very, it's one of those movies where, literally nothing happens in it. Nothing happens the whole movie. But it's just so atmospheric, and it's so focused in its tone. It's just, really, it's easily the scariest. It's not my favorite horror movie of the year. This is a recurring thing. But it is the scariest thing I saw all year. I was watching through my fingers. I was so tense and horrified when I was watching, but I loved it. Some people are going to hate it, but I loved it.
Okay,
cool. Kirk, you're not going to make a pun on the name of this movie, which is called what?
I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House.
Nothing, Kirk?
There's a lot there. It's almost too much.
It's almost...
He's too proud to
It's almost already dirty. You don't even have to do anything with it, yeah.
But hearing Tony say that he is the pretty thing that lives in the house isn't very surprising. But, for number 5, well, let me just preface by saying that I, by far, saw the fewest new release movies this year. I'm guessing. I'm very sure of that. We have to mention movies are very much becoming this elitist activity. It's $16 to go to a movie now. That's that's just the value you find there is very hard, especially when you have this plethora of online content just instantly available. So I found myself kind of gravitating toward
cheaper
more
popcorn.
that modular kind of not taking risks, being kind of this indigent college student. I will say I did see. I think I saw I saw more than 5, but I will say my number 5, instead of Arrival, as a protest pick, my number 5 is Dirty Grandpa with Robert De Niro and Zac Efron.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's a protest pick because I actually did not find anything really to love in Arrival. I thought it was undercooked. I thought it was actually, you know what? I forgot I did see one more that it left my mind, but you know what? So it's a 3-way tie for 5. We'll make Dirty Grandpa.
Whoa, this is a
honorable
first,
mention.
folks.
Yeah, no, I would say Loving. I did see Loving. Loving's a story about interracial couple in the South, in Virginia in the late 50s. They go to D.C. to get married. They come back, and their marriage is seen as invalid by the state. And so they are forced to move, and this is kind of just a passive, a peaceful kind of clandestine resistance to the oppression of a state that is trying to impinge upon, the civil liberties of their through discriminatory, obvious, blatantly racist practices. And so it very much was relevant for our time. I saw it the week before the election, and actually saw Nick Kroll. He gave a Q&A after, but it was quite interesting. A good social commentary piece that is dishearteningly relevant to this day. So that's my number.
Right. So Arrival was your number 5?
I'm sure that it'll be brought up in.
Well, I'm just curious. So have you taken it off your top 5?
Is it on yours?
We'll get to that.
Okay. No, it's
clearly that's a yes, but yeah.
No, I didn't really like Arrival. I thought the big twist, and I'm not going to talk. We don't have to.
You haven't seen it.
I saw it.
We're gonna bring it up again. Let's say we're gonna bring it up again.
We can delve into it when time.
So okay, so my number 5 was, although I did not see it in 2017, I still am going to count it as a 2017 movie. Is Yorgos Lanthimos' The Lobster.
No, that's a 2016 movie.
That's 2016.
U.S. release, but yeah, we saw it in 2015.
We saw it in 2015.
They
That's
actually
right.
got a U.S. limited release in 2016. 2015.
I'm dubious.
I saw the dailies in 2014. So The Lobster is a great, interesting movie. Can't really call it surreal. It's not a stylized movie exactly. It's very it's stylized tonally. It's very I would call it a sort of Kafka-esque parable. It takes place in a strange alternate universe where the single are taken to a hotel and basically have to find a mate. So it's an interesting sort of story about the paranoia and the anxiety surrounding mating and having a mate and needing to have a mate. And also, it's this very interesting story with great actors. It's his first English language kind of debut. I really look forward to whatever he's working on next. I just thought it was a great movie, very significant. It's definitely one I'm going to revisit, I think, time and time again. Still don't like it quite as much as his other movie, Dogtooth, but I think it is quite good.
Yeah. No, I love The Lobster.
Certainly, it was Tony and I's most hyped for me personally. It was my most hyped, and Tony participated in my hype for The Lobster as well.
We did see it together in 2015 New York Film Festival, and I liked it a lot as well. I think the first half is a little bit stronger than the second half, but I think by the end it all comes together, and the final couple minutes are really thrilling. It was very so up my alley. It's very dry humor, this really weird and surreal world it sets up, and I think it's funny, it's weird, it's dark. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Was that your number 5 pick too?
No, I'm piggybacking on him.
We'll sort of, when we bring up a movie with something to say.
You liked it as well, I know.
No, I liked it as well. I think last year was probably my number 4.
Oh, you're right.
It was on my previous year's list. I
Okay.
enjoyed The Lobster as well, but my number 5 pick is Swiss Army Man.
Oh,
the
man.
the Daniel brothers, am I right?
They're not brothers.
It's called
Daniel
Daniels.
Kwan and Daniel
Yeah,
something
I
else.
Spiritual
forgot the way that,
brothers.
yes. Despite, I think, sort of dragging a bit long in the middle and thinking it takes itself a bit too clever and attractive than it really is, I think its portrayal of sort of the interesting absurdistic as Camusian love it has for its two leads, especially beautifully portrayed by Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe, really win me over by the end. I enjoy the movie a lot more than I even thought I would coming out of it. And the more I think about it, the more I like it. So that's my number 5 pick, Swiss Army Man.
Yeah, I saw this for a second time recently. Let's just say, in due time, I'll talk about it more at length, but I did like that movie a whole lot. 5th place? Oh, you already did 5th place.
Yeah.
4th place.
Okay. What was yours again?
Oh, I didn't do a 5th.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's right. We were talking about the other ones. I forgot. So my 5th place pick is Manchester by the Sea. It's a movie that's going to win all these awards, and it's on all the lists, etc. You already know how you feel about it if you've seen it. It's just, again, I have nothing really to add here to the discourse, but it is as good as everyone says. It's a really incredibly sad, brutal movie. Amazing acting. Casey Affleck, Kyle Chandler, Lucas Hedges is incredible.
Michelle Williams.
Michelle Williams isn't in it very much, but she's great while she's in it for sure. But yeah, I was really blown away just by the storytelling and the writing and just the subtlety of everything. And the funny thing about this movie is that Kirk was telling me he didn't like it that much, and there were 3 friends over like 3 consecutive days who told me they didn't like the movie, but they all had very different reasons, which I thought was very interesting. But what did you guys think of Manchester by the Sea? Is it on your
It's
top
on my
5?
number 6, I believe.
Number
on
6,
my
okay.
official published list.
Right.
I unfortunately have not seen it, but I've heard great things. I don't even know really a lot about the movie, unfortunately, though.
That's good though. It's better to
Sure.
see not knowing anything.
Yeah, so it's on my list, absolutely.
Do you have to say what you didn't like about it, or?
I just it was. No, I it's funny.
Well, you
because
did like it.
It's my number 4, but it's just I felt it squandered its potential because I felt it had a lot of potential.
More could have happened.
And yeah, and like I think kind of this, like I told you guys, like this mimetic realism, and just it can kind of hypnotize directors and force them down avenues that maybe they shouldn't for the sake of the art. And I think in this case there could have been a much more impactful ending, and it doesn't necessarily have to be happy or sad or give any sort of emotion, but just the fact that it's like, well, this is how, this is what mirrors life. Well, yeah, but and I know life mirrors art, but there is some refraction in that mirror. It's not a 1-to-1. So for me, I wanted a little bit more from it. But then again, that's personal choice. I could recognize the craft in it. The writing was excellent, as far, probably the acting was great as well, though I don't think Casey Affleck deserves an Oscar by any means.
Oh, dude.
Do you really? You think he does?
I think he's incredible. I think he's amazing in this movie, dude.
He doesn't. Okay.
It's
Once
amazing.
again,
It's amazing.
it's like here's the thing.
I'll
It's
back
like
Kirk up a bit. I think he's a great performance. I think I don't have like an instant runaway winner for it, a Best Acting award, but I think there are several other people who are more worthy this year of picking up at the Best Actor trophy.
Well, I'll back Tony up, and I say he'll definitely win it.
the thing is, like, okay, yeah, he plays what a very depressed person would be like, but it's basically just Casey Affleck with 3 Ambien. I mean, it's not very, to me, it doesn't seem very hard. It's very accurate, but not very hard.
Oh, God.
Yeah, Tony,
Jesus
how
Christ.
dare I say that? Oh,
It doesn't seem very hard.
It's
different
my,
than,
it's my opinion.
You're saying very hard, and that's different than saying it's not good. I don't know. That's fine. It's fine. It's your opinion. You're right.
No, it's accurate, but I don't think it's very complex. Like, to me.
No, I mean, well, the thing that performance is marked by restraint. You can see him restraining his emotions in so many scenes. It's like bottled up so tight. I think that's
I
incredibly
think that's
subtle.
that's you projecting, honestly. But go ahead.
All right, yeah, I am projecting.
Okay.
Like you can actually see his
Yeah,
emotions.
dude, absolutely. All right, number 4.
Okay, I've been nervous about this one. My number 4 is Star Wars, or rather Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Crickets.
Was this the twist?
I see. No, it was not. It's not the twist. This is one that I see the flaws. I can see the issues. Personally, for me, I don't understand how people argue. I mean, here's the thing. It's a tricky thing about movies because we argue that they work on the basis of their function and on their effects. And that's difficult to really figure out because is the effect only that it's Star Wars, right? Is that what's affecting me, or is there something, or is it the movie itself? And we have different interpretations of what the functions of the movie's various scenes have, or what felt appropriate to us, or what didn't feel appropriate. Now, personally, I can agree with some people I've been reading. We're saying yes, so that Darth Vader scene is so just
Where he's mowing
inserted.
guys down.
Well, his dialogue scene where he says,
the
"Don't
pun.
choke on your ambition," which was a little bit weird, but I understand what they were going for. Like maybe it wasn't my personal idea of Vader, but I thought it was an interesting take. I did think it was a true sort of if the last one, Force Awakens, was a return to Star Wars, like to prequel, that is the original kind of form. This one was much more so, and it actually was its own movie, whereas Force Awakens was basically a kind of a recap of sorts of New Hope.
Yeah.
But and I thought it was a great movie. I thought it was very intense. I did enjoy the darkness of it. I thought it actually had some interesting things to say. I found it just as a film, I found it really effective. It just had me kind of on the edge of my seat and nervous and interested, and the characters that were interesting. Mads Mikkelsen. It's my man.
Oh, I love Mads Mikkelsen.
And Forrest Whitaker's performance, I wish I had seen a bit more of him. It was kind of a shame how he disappeared in the middle of the movie, but, well, not exactly disappeared, but... so anyway, I thought it was a really great movie, and I can't defend it up against the strongest criticisms, but I can I'll protest a little bit,
Where does it fall in your guys' personal Star Wars rankings?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't even seen it, really?
No.
I would have thought you were a big Star Wars guy. I thought you would have seen it right away.
I was not able to make it to the theater during its release.
Sorry to hear
That's
that.
too
Okay,
bad.
Connor, where does it fall in your Star Wars
Where does it fall
ranking?
on me? For me, I'm not sure because I haven't really made my Star Wars official ranking. I think it's pretty high up there. It's definitely probably would find its way into the middle of the sequels, maybe above 6.
Okay,
Yeah.
respectable.
Yeah, which
Very
of course Revenge of the Sith is number 1. So.
Very good. Yeah, I don't have any real major criticisms with Rogue One. I didn't respond to it in the same way. I did like the gritty feel. I did like the third act and the war movie
Did I
stuff.
say prequels? I meant 4,
The
5, and
originals,
6. I
yes,
meant the originals.
original
Yes.
movies. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was good. I didn't respond to it in the same way. But
Sure,
we
yeah.
got to move on. There are a lot of movies to talk about. So
Yeah.
Sure, I won't say too much about my number 4 pick because I recommended it several episodes ago, but it is Whit Stillman's Love and Friendship, the adaptation of an unfinished novel by Jane Austen called Lady Susan. I think in the movie, Whit Stillman delivers probably the best Jane Austen adaptation to date. It's completely hilarious. It does Jane Austen, I think, justice in what she's getting at in her satire and everything else you could want from a movie by him. But I do want to quickly return to a point that Tony made about the restraining of emotion in acting, because I do actually think that that's actually a pretty difficult thing to do. However, I think Casey Affleck is not the best in the movie at doing that. I think actually Matthew Broderick in his brief scene at the dinner table.
Matthew Broderick, really? He's the one thing I don't like about that movie.
Actually, no. But actually, I do really think Michelle Williams in the funeral scene delivers that best.
Okay, fair enough. My number 4, I mentioned. So this is my favorite horror movie of the year. It was The Witch, which I saw. It blew me away because it's funny because there was the hype and the backlash to the hype and the things is it even a horror movie? All this conversation about The Witch. I saw it. I was blown away. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. There's just so much atmosphere. I just loved every single detail. I loved the way it looked. I loved the casting. I loved the dialogue, the vernacular the characters are using. The guy who plays, I wish I should know his name, but the guy who plays the dad, I thought was just so good and so perfect in that movie. It's just this sense of just pure evil at the center of this movie. This black, dripping soul. that I just thought was conveyed so well, and I from beginning to end, I was absolutely wrapped. Everyone says, okay, there are no jump scares, it's kind of a slow burn, and to me, it worked completely. I thought it was masterful.
Yeah, I saw The Witch. I liked it too, and I have immense respect for it. I didn't have the same love for it. I don't see the form of the movie really coming through. I see it more of like an interesting tonal achievement.
Okay.
I like the idea of let's bring back witches, let's make witches scary again. That was pretty cool, and I have just immense appreciation for the way they took these characters, these Puritans, seriously and gave them their language and the name Thomason was like just wow, that's awesome. Thomason, I never would have thought of that, but so yeah, I liked it a lot too, but not on my list.
How come I'm on 3 and you're on 4?
Because we started
with you,
your
Kirk.
thing.
Because
we did our honorable mentions, then you did 5.
Yeah, well, okay. Fair enough. So I guess to me, for number 3, this is a hard one. Now it's getting kind of hard for me because I did enjoy all 3 of these movies quite a lot, and Tony will be surprised. But I think number 3 would be Silence. I did see Silence with Tony, so he can attest to kind of my ambivalence while we were leaving. I was a little bit not disheartened. I was a little bit befuddled. It's very much a movie that is not enjoyable to watch in any way. At least the last third. It's just really grueling. It's this kind of intrapsychic battle for an objective morality that it just kind of all falls apart, and it's supposed to, and it was a lot to take in, and so the though I really did appreciate Andrew Garfield. I thought, for me, it would be no question him over Casey Affleck. That's who I would choose.
This is the Casey Affleck in review.
I don't know.
Casey Affleck
compare every
trial.
movie to Casey Affleck's performance.
Also, the thing is, I mean, for a film community that's so much, they're so moralistic, they're going to kick Devin Faraci out, and they're going to let Casey Affleck, who, supposedly forced himself upon a bunch of women, just because he has 2 bodyguards in Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, these 2 blockers, who you can't talk about this, otherwise you get blacklisted from those people's movies and from those connections. It's a little bit hypocritical in my opinion. Casey Affleck is not very. It's not.
No, I'm not defending him at all.
No,
that's
not a white dove. But so the third, Andrew Garfield was amazing. Even Adam Driver was good in it, but obviously Scorsese just knocks it out of the park. I had some problems with the pacing, and also with kind of the issues of cultural relativism and the power dynamics in the movie. And if you saw it, maybe you could understand why it might be hard to write about, these white missionaries going to Japan, and the idea of this kind of, and Tony says that it's subverted, which I think it is in a way, and we had a long discourse about it, but the idea of this is a white director talking about missionaries going to Japan, and the ruthless Japanese and all this, and so there's a portrayal of this amoral society that's just very ruthless and it doesn't value life, and I don't think that was countered enough. So anyways, I did love it though. I won't see it again though. It's just too much.
Okay. Well, you got me very hyped for it. Yeah, I've been meaning to see it. I haven't seen Silence, but my next movie, it's interesting that what Kurt said, because my next movie is Casey Affleck as a White Dove, the documentary. No, I'm kidding. No, my next movie is, my movie's Arrival, which we mentioned. My number 3 is Arrival. What can I say about Denis Villeneuve? And I thought it was just an incredible movie, very well put together. I love the tone. I love the way it proceeded. I get that there's maybe a sort of, what was it you said, Kirk? It was a kind of a blankness, something or other. But
Undercooked? Is that
undercooked was your thing. Yeah, I could see that, and it's sort of an interesting and sort of partial. The way it was adapted from its source material, I've read up on. It's pretty interesting. But I just thought it was a very good story, particularly for the first half. And the discussion of language, it really kind of tickled my ego because I'm very into language. And having a linguist as a hero in the form of Amy Adams, cool. I thought that was very special, and it really spoke to me. And I felt like, I felt sort of proud of the idea of studying language and the importance of language communication. And of course, I liked our sort of final revelation, our ideological, our sort of intellectual revelation we get at the end of the movie.
This is the first movie that all four of us have seen.
I think so. Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. So anyone else want to share their?
Sure. No. You
feelings?
go first if you like.
I mean, I don't really have much of an opinion because that's my biggest problem with is it's the type of movie where I came out of the theater and said, yeah, it was okay, and then next week I completely forgot about it, and whenever someone brings it up, I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
That was fine. I mean, that's it. It didn't quite hit me in any way, I guess. Just it was there.
Okay. No, I liked it a bit. It was, if I did a top 10, it'd be like number 9. Or 10. No, I like this movie a lot. It was very. I think it was a beautiful story. It was a great science fiction tale. But Amy Adams was fantastic in it, and I just love there's so much in this movie. I love the way everything comes together. I love the way the personal story and the science fiction story and the political and the social elements of the way those all come together. And I think it's what I love about it.
And the
is
aliens, man. When you first see those aliens, were you not astounded by that?
They were great.
The white screen.
The way they handled the aliens were perfect. We see just enough.
So cool.
And the what I love about it is the movie before the Sicario, which I like a little more, is a movie that's so just like it's so bleak and it's so about how we're just going to be horrible. Humanity's just going to be doomed forever because we're just all going to be in our own little bubbles and we're all going to like perpetuate these horrible systems. And Arrival's saying, but maybe there's a way. He's like refuting his previous movie. It's like he's developing. He's like, maybe there's a way we can come together. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I saw it before the election, but it felt very kind of relevant to me going into the next couple months. But I like this movie a lot.
It doesn't seem very pragmatic, though, because the answer to that is a supernatural thing.
It's a science fiction story.
No, it's a different conception of time.
So
that's the thing. From the book, it was the aliens actually give them technology, but in the movie, right, it's only their language, which they can solve, and sort of it gives them a different perception of time, right? So it's just through language itself, a different construction, a different way of seeing. It's not that reality really alters; it's just a different way of thinking about reality
and learning to see from other people's perspectives and listening.
Well, and more importantly, too, it's the revelation. I mean, I think that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think, harder to accept, which is the idea that it's the kind of unstuck in time idea that once you stop seeing people as being, you see people's lives and sort of in their totality. You see that not a person is not just the person right now that you're seeing, but it's the whole. The whole potentiality of what the person has been and what they are going to be. I thought it was pretty profound. I guess it's a little bit mystical and weird, but
more importantly, it's about stealing President Jinping's phone and whispering in his wife's ear, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's definitely about stealing the president's phone.
A lot of seeing a movie is how just your mood going into it. Like we don't come to movies as blank slates. So
right.
I think maybe I wasn't in the place to enjoy it as much as if I had seen it for the first time the next day or the day before. So
that's true.
Very fair.
But I could see the merit in it. That's why I thought of it. But who's
Anthony's up next?
What are we on number 3?
Yeah.
Number 3 is Kubo and the Two Strings, one of my favorite movies of the year, and it is the first time Lake Animated Studios has not completely knocked it out of the park since their Coraline. Kubo and the Two Strings is, as I think if I were to describe this movie to Connor, is the Legend of Zelda adaptation we have been waiting for.
Oh, man.
It's beautiful treatment of the way music and storytelling affect our lives while searching for, I think, a sort of spirituality that doesn't seem to exist is absolutely fascinating. It's the type of movie I would want to see if I were a kid again, and in fact I want to see over and over as soon as I can. It was such a great theatrical experience, and just it's the way it handles itself is just so perfect. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I wish it was computer animated for Tony, or maybe Pixar animated. Enjoy it more, but thanks, Tony.
So I
Was it better than the first 10 minutes of Up? Like, be honest.
Well, I mean,
Not even
Kubo's
close.
Kubo's actually a whole movie. It's not-
Oh, okay.
you guys bearing witness to what's happening right now. No,
Someday we'll have to have our Pixar episode and just
We really
settle the
do.
score.
and Kubo has, I think, one of my top 5 favorite scores. Just in
I've
there.
heard it's amazing.
No, I really enjoyed it as I saw it, but it was kind of similar to you with Arrival. Like, I didn't think about it much after, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, I did see Kubo. I like it. It didn't hit me the same way. But that was it. So, anyway. Oh, number 3. So, my number 3 is actually Barry Jenkins' Moonlight, the most critically acclaimed movie of the year. So again, it's like Manchester by the Sea. It's like, what do I really have to add? Not really anything, but it is, I think, a really beautiful movie. I love the way it has kind of the 3-act structure. You see this guy grow up, and you see him in these different contexts. You see him as a kid, as a teenager, and then as an adult. And I thought each act was like a really good short film on its own, but by the end they kind of weave together to form this story of a life in a way that I thought was just so wonderful and so beautiful. And the second act is my favorite personally, because I'm into the darkness of it personally. but I think all of them are great. The cast is amazing. Really fantastic movie.
Mm-hmm. Kirk?
Yeah, I mean, now that you brought up Moonlight, I somehow didn't see Moonlight. I really wanted to see it. I probably will see it in the coming weeks. So I'm very much assuming that Moonlight would have taken this, moved everything back a spot. But at number 2 is Jackie. Jackie is the kind of the cinematic depiction of Jacqueline Kennedy's days following her husband's assassination. Obviously, she's the actor who played her is Natalie Portman. She's getting a lot of attention for her performance, which I think she rightly deserves. She's excellent in the movie, just spot on, amazing, unbelievable. I think she deserves Best Actress. Peter Sarsgaard is also in it as RFK, and there's a kind of a back and forth. It's told via flashbacks as she's conducting an interview with journalist Billy Crudup, who is in some other things. He's pretty good in it as well. But I thought it was so great. The tone was perfect. The score, we talked about scores earlier, the score was excellent. And kind of the way that the extreme brutality of the event was kind of depicted, it didn't feel exploitative in ways that certain movies can. Like, I don't know. It has basically what I'm saying is it has the perspicacity, it has the distance that a movie needs to have in order for it to ring true, because it's 53 years after the event. So when you make a movie like World Trade Center, 5 years after 9/11, I feel like you don't have that distance, you don't have that perspective, and for me, it becomes exploitative. I'm looking at you, Peter Berg, with your Patriots Day bullshit. And, so I really thought Jackie was an excellent take on a national tragedy, one that this generation, our generation, can't possibly fully understand. And we cannot overestimate, excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So mine is so we're on number 2, right?
Yes.
So my number 2 is Swiss Army Man, which Anthony already talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
On yours, it was number 5. I thought this movie was incredible. I was so impressed that the Daniels sort of came out with this kind of very different style of tone. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong that it's piggybacking on some other work of some other director. It's a tone that's already been established in another movie, but it felt to me like something totally new and completely different. from a team that was more about directing, kind of short movies and videos and sort of this, the sort of short surrealist sort of thing. But the fact they could make a whole movie with characters out of this form and out of this absurdism, I thought was so cool. And I thought it was, obviously, as everybody knows, it's very touching. Radcliffe Dano, it's just a great pair. It's very, it's sort of the bromance idea. And also it has this interesting theme about the mind and the body. And it's something I relate to too, and that's thematized. The mind and the body becomes this thing about self-consciousness and paralysis and of course love shyness is a big theme. So along with The Lobster, these are two movies that have a kind of love shy theme, which maybe that's why I liked it. That's why I thought it was interesting. But I thought it was just great. I thought it was because it was so original and fresh, and yeah, incredible.
Sure. My number 2 movie was my favorite movie for most of the year until the number 1 choice I'll give later replaced it recently. But my number 2 movie is called My Golden Days. It's sort of a French movie that seems tailor-made for Anthony.
Speaks in the third person, yes.
No,
surely it must be.
It's kind of a straightforward movie just about an older man rethinking his sort of past life and sort of rethinking what he would think would be the love of his life and trying to come up with sort of the perspective of how she actually was as opposed to how he's made her to be. So the story tells itself in 3 different parts. Each story is very similar to the next, and yet each one is just very subtly different, and it deals with the theme of memory and time and whether his memory has made her better than she actually was or whether his memory has completely forgot her for who she was, the person he liked. And at the end of the movie, you simply learn that, perspective has just completely changed, and it sort of goes into some Joycean elements that just, the literary studies in me just ate up, like a bag of candy. But anyway, that's my number 2. It's called My Golden Days.
Very good. I need to
What's
watch
that in
this.
French?
I haven't heard much about this movie, but I'm eager to see it for myself. My number 2, as I mentioned before, it's Martin Scorsese's Silence. It's been creeping its way up my list. If we did this an hour from now, maybe every hour since I've seen it, I've been like, Silence! Yeah, Kirk and I talked about it a whole lot. There's so much to unpack in this movie. Like, it's impossible to talk about until you guys have seen it.
And I don't want to. I really want to see it.
No, but it's a movie that there's just so much there. It's just so complicated, and it's a movie that kind of blew my mind. I think it's like profound. I think it's a very brutal movie, but one that I ultimately left feeling. I left feeling good. I felt like, okay, the soul has been touched. So yeah, and I did go to Catholic school with the Jesuits, so I do have sort of an emotional stake where I'm like, yeah, Jesuits, it ends with on my arm.
You're rooting for them.
So I'm rooting for the Jesuits, of course.
I guess similar. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love this movie, and I don't want to talk too much about it.
I just want to see it. That's a must see for me. Yeah.
So Kurt, number 1.
Kurt, number one.
Oh boy.
No idea.
You don't know?
No idea what it's gonna be.
Okay, well, my number 1 movie was Cachet. It's a French film. Very good.
What's it about?
It's about this pretentious guy who decides to make a movie. He wants to fuck with the audience.
Very meta.
Yeah. No, my number 1 movie is La La Land, and I'm pretty sure it's Anthony's as well, so I will let him talk more about it, because I will just be blabbering. But I loved it. It was so touching to me. It was a very, very much an uplifting movie. I thought it was well acted. It kind of brought me back. I love how it's self-aware at times, and it can understand its context, its relationship with the audience, and kind of how it indulges more sillier, fantastical elements. It's not supposed to be like an advertisement for LA in any way. It's just kind of this this fantastical dream, this phantasmagoric thing. But I loved it. I thought the music was excellent. I listened to the soundtrack regularly. It made me want to be an actor for a little bit, but not really. But it's it's a timeless thing as well, because you can feel kind of the history of just the Hollywood legends that came before. And I remember her walking in front of that mural where it shows like them all, a lot of them, like Ingrid Bergman and Andrews and Bogart and all of them. It just kind of like this very cool shot, and she's stumbling into this bar and she finds what happens to be a timeless love, circumstances notwithstanding. So I thought that it was just a beautiful piece of art. It made me cry, and that can't happen in movies. It's probably happened about 5 times, and that was a very, very much a poignant marker of what it can mean to me. So I loved it.
Yeah, I don't want to jump in front of Connor here, but I mean,
since it
is my number one movie as well, La La Land, I think in some way or another, Kirkman hit on every fine point the movie has to offer, from the way it utilizes its nostalgia to the way it wants to honor it, and at the same time rethink it for something new, the more current generation, to the thing that all musicals should do, the way the songs and dance numbers actually hit us completely. And 3, just the theatricality experience again. I've seen it twice in theaters, and I'm ready to go back and see it hopefully another time or two, honestly. I wish perhaps if Emma Stone was a bit more restrained in her acting, Tony might appreciate it a bit more. But this is a musical.
She's no Casey Affleck. Let's say that.
There's a lot of long shots of her, and her eyes get kind of big, and Tony screams in anger. But I just I don't feel like there's anything more to say about this movie than probably exists in online, or I think Kirk did actually a good job of just wanting people to go see it. So. That's it. Just
one more technical thing. I like how a lot of musicals, there's like it can be like there's some orphans, we're gonna sing, or French revolutionaries, we're gonna start singing, or these very masculine tropes, and then we're gonna start dancing and singing about rape in the shower. And in this movie, this musical was more.
What was that? A Christmas song?
It sounded like Frosty the Snowman.
That was the American History Experience. How nice. All right. But no, I thought it made sense. This is a musical. Like, these are aspiring, performers. It makes sense that they would. Not totally, but it's the music, the entertainment. It just felt natural. It didn't feel so just sandwiched in there like a lot of musicals can for me, and so dissonant is the word I'm looking for. So I love that part of it. It was easier to appreciate the music.
Yeah, it's cool. I still got to see La La Land. I like what you guys are saying. It sounds like a very interesting movie. Good musical is always great. Okay, now to my number 1. Here's the thing, guys. I guess I have to listen to my heart here. And though my brain tells me this shouldn't be number 1, my heart says it has to be. Okay. My number 1 is 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Wow.
So I understand that this, in terms of juiciness, may not be quite there. It's not like a movie we're going to go back and watch and see hundreds of new things every time we watch it. It's not going to maybe culturally or intellectually, socially be so significant, but just as a movie that made me feel the effectiveness of cinema, being in the theater, and that's really worth it. It's really worth sitting and watching a movie. This is the movie that really convinced me. Of course, I love all the performances. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is like my tutelary, spirit figure. I thought it had, if you want to dig into it, there is a fairly straightforward kind of message to the movie. It says, and that every aspect of the plot, even that ending that people don't like, is related to that. Maybe not the very, very, very ending, but I thought the ending was important, the way it turned out, for the message of the movie. And I thought it was just great. And it was of course, maybe there's a nostalgia factor. I was always kind of, when people said it's like Hitchcock, it's like Hitchcock has come back or something, it's like, could be like Hitchcock, Hitchcock Presents episode or something like. I felt like that to me felt like the same thing.
Oh, the room has started to bend. It's being compromised by some weed smell from the accompanying room.
So I heard Kirk just
I thought you were like,
kind of disgusted.
No,
it was blowhard.
It hit me.
I'm sorry, Kirk. Yeah, and I have said enough. So yeah, so I understand that it maybe not be quite the huge achievement as some other movies, but it was my personal number one that kept me thinking. And
that's very cool. I did not see that coming. I didn't even think that would be in the contention for your number one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I like the movie. I'm one of the boring opinion of I didn't like the end. I think up to that point though, it's fantastic. I love John Goodman in that so much. But I love what they're doing with these Cloverfield movies, where like it has nothing to do with the first one. So it's almost like an anthology series where each one is a new sci-fi kind of story.
Sort of an excuse for like these, small, more not like a $30 million movies, just kind of pick up.
Yeah, they're pretty small movies.
The next will be like a gothic, like the Cloverfield estate.
Wait, so there wasn't any. There's no tie.
There's no real tie to the first
no
one.
tie.
There's no real tie. Like
there's sort of a nod to it. There's like a reference. It's probably in the same universe.
The event, like, do they talk?
There's like nods to it, but it's nothing huge.
I would say
no shared.
I would say they're two unrelated movies. Pretty much. I mean, they are related, but.
Yeah, there's no shaky cam. This isn't a found footage
fact.
movie.
Oh, okay.
I love the first Cloverfield. I love this movie, and I'm very excited for whatever the next one's going to be, because I have no idea what they'll do next. So,
yeah.
Good stuff. I know you liked it as well.
Yeah. Well, what was your number one, though? I'm curious.
Oh, right. My number one...
Birth of a Nation. Sorry, I spoiled it.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's been mentioned a couple times already, but I really love Swiss Army Man. I saw it again recently, and I was like... This is like, I saw it in the theater, and I knew it was really good, and I saw it again with my friends. I'm like, I got my friends who knew nothing about it in a room. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna blow their minds with Swiss Army Man, and I was like, wow, this is like an amazing movie. This is so good. It does one of the things that I personally love a lot. Like, I have certain things in movies that I like gravitate towards, and one of those things I think is cool, and the Daniels do this in their shorts as well, is they take something absurd, this absurd premise, and they make it like profound.
Yeah.
They take this really silly, ridiculous thing, and then they ground it in character and humanity and themes. And that's what I love about Swiss Army Man. It's just a movie it's very funny, it's very surreal, but by the end it's like it's actually moving and it's actually deep. I think it has a lot on its mind, and there are a couple moments in that movie where I'm just like, it does these things where it takes this stuff that we see joked about in other movies and these other things, and they make it... I think about, like, there are scenes in the movie that make me think about things in a way I never thought about them before. There's a scene, for instance, where these characters are talking about masturbation, but it's in a way I've never heard it talked about in the movie, for instance, like that sort of thing, and it's basically, again, it's like reclaiming the base, it's reclaiming farting and poop and penises and all these things, and it's making them, like, very important. Or it's as high as anything else. And I just think that's so interesting. And I really was blown away by this movie, and I do think it is a great film. So that's my number one.
Okay, so that's the ceremony, our number ones. We've heard them all. I've heard the top five. Any further
So we're not
comments?
doing that. We're not pitting them against each other like last time?
I don't think so, although my impression is...
Okay, because my mental scoring has indicated that Swiss Army Man and La La Land are tied.
Basically.
So we don't have to put them against each other.
Yeah. So a quick mental scoring. So I had one question, though, which is, what do you think... I've been interested in this question. What do you think of all the movies, I guess, that we've seen, or that you've seen, which do you think will have the longest...
Ooh.
The longest sort of fortune, that is, its longest reception? How long will people be talking about this movie, looking back and thinking about this movie? What movie do you think would be the most sort of long-lasting in terms of people talking about it, whether for good or for ill?
I think Silence.
You think Silence?
There's just so much
Silence
there,
is going to be a juicy one.
And also there's the mere fact that it's made by a guy who's considered a master filmmaker already.
True.
So we're going to be comparing it. So everything he puts out will be remembered.
And I was thinking Hail Caesar for that same reason. We're not talking too much. We're not talking about it too much these days, but it seemed to kind of slip us by. I thought it was very good, but I think it will obviously get a chance to be reevaluated when we start looking back.
Absolutely.
The Coen Brothers
Coen
comedies
stuff
will be much more esteemed in 40, 50 years. Yes.
Right.
As opposed to being glossed over the way they are now. I am curious. I haven't seen Silence, so I don't know. But with such a lengthy filmography, I wonder how Silence will be looked at. Because in my head, Scorsese already has his religious masterpiece in The Last Temptation of Christ, which I've seen quite a few articles beginning to detail, sort of the theatrical or the thematic comparisons between the two. I haven't seen Silence, so I don't know.
Right.
But I do love Last Temptation. It's actually one of my favorite Scorsese movies, probably top 3 for sure.
Here they come. They're taking us.
It's the movie police.
Kiss him.
Yeah. Okay. So wait. So what do you?
On his
Okay.
ear.
All right. So what do you think, Kirk? Is there a particular movie this year?
I don't know. I mean, I would say La La Land more than Silence to me,
Okay.
because I think Silence will get lost in the shuffle, and I don't.
Of Scorsese's movies, or of like 2016 movies, or
Just of Scorsese's movies.
Okay.
I think
it's got a lot of them.
I don't know. I think La La Land is just. I haven't seen anything like it before. Right?
It's an instant classic.
To me, it feels like it will be like a Hollywood classic. Like it will be a Singing in the Rain.
That's fine.
To me.
Downer, so what was yours? Hail
I
Caesar?
have one more. No, this is one I was thinking of. I had one more that I find more convincing. I kind of looked into this topic. Looked back at movies from the past. For instance, what kind of movies from 1916 are we still talking about? One would be D.W. Griffith's Intolerance. But then I went back even further. I went back 500 years to 1516. And what are we still talking about from 1516 books? That's right, Thomas More's Utopia. And in fact, I think the movie
Did that really
will
come out in 1516?
1516, yes.
Oh wow.
And so I think we're going to be talking about most in the future, at least in the 50-year run, is going to be Zootopia. Easily.
Really?
Yeah, because I think the stories are going to look back on this movie and be very interested that people were always talking about it. It was used by both like alt-writers and of course, social justice people to justify their worldviews and expound it upon, and got a lot of attention. And
What is the alt-right take on Zootopia?
there's an interesting alt-right take. I forget. I can't quite
Let's not
reproduce
propagate
it.
Yeah.
Reproduce it here, but anyway, I just thought it was an interesting movie that people felt it demanded attention. That a lot of people did really talk about for a long time, and an interesting thing. People, I think, will be trying to decode like the references by comparing it to like listicles from our time. They'll be like, they'll be using it to interpret that.
No, I didn't love Zootopia, but it is kind of fascinating that movie exists.
Yeah.
And all the things it talks about, I'm like, this is really weird for a Disney movie.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I gotta give it that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Anthony? What's your pick?
Well, I'm curious about Zootopia. I wonder, what if it's a Songs of a Cell situation, though? Disney, 40 years from now, realizes their mistakes and bans it across the release. Does everything they can in their power to make it disappear.
I would love that if it's held up now as this progressive movie, and then they realize, this is actually really racist.
Right, true, because dealing with that kind of thing, it will. You're right. It's more open to. It's more vulnerable to that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
But honestly, I don't know. I would kind of want to Pulitzer this and say I don't know if any of the movies this year I could think of are really going to be remembered 50, 100 years. I'll say I think the biggest shot is honestly, I think Kubo's going to be rediscovered in a bit. That just may be my biased love. And I think Swiss Army Man's going to be much more of a college sort of film experience as well.
Yeah. I think it might be a classic college movie.
Classic sort of thing.
I can easily see it talked about among
Come
certain
over to
friend
my
groups.
room. Let's watch Swiss Army Man. Yeah. The poster and all that. Yep.
All right, we're 50 plus
No,
minutes.
you forgot our in memoriam. So 2016 was a really tough year. So we're going to be doing an in memoriam of all the actors and people in the film industry we lost, as well as all the people who've ever seen a movie. So that list is going to start now. It was a really tough year, and I really can't move on past the entertainers we lost. So, anyways,
Okay.
Let's start.
sorry to be spontaneous. No,
Are we can we do a shout out for a video game or TV show we liked? This is very selfish.
That's only Tony wants to.
We're already 53. We don't have to.
let's talk about tropical freeze.
Let's talk about Tropical Freeze for another hour.
My two things I'll also recommend: Uncharted 4 and Horace and Pete. These are my two recommendations for 2016. They aren't movies, so there you go.
Stranger Things. No,
None of us like Stranger Things. Sorry, internet.
Stranger Things is
It's pretty bad.
Too bad.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank
we'll be
you.
back next week with my movie.
Crime Town podcast. Very good.